Welcome into the Chasing Trails podcast, brought to you by St. John Trail Running and powered by Resilience Through Fitness. Join two middle-aged dads as they sit down and talk trail running, life, and everything in between. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff LeBlanc and Brandon Thompson.
Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the Chasing Trails podcast. Jeff and Brandon here with you. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're glad that you're here with us as we talk about trail running and life and everything in between. And Jeff, it's great to be back on with you. How are you making out?
I'm doing good. Yeah.
We're still enjoying the summer weather. Now we just put out our summer running episode where literally was us complaining for an hour about running in the summertime.
Did you see the feedback we got from that? There was a lot of interaction. I think people were dying for a banter episode. Because we got a lot of people chiming in on Instagram and commenting and liking on the reel you showed. We even had Lee Murphy just absolutely blow my mind, telling me that it wasn't spider webs and that it was inchworms that were running. Running through. Like,
that's horrifying.
Is that real? Like, do they do that? I don't know. Anyway, I was just like,
silkworms.
What do you mean? Always,
don't you remember, like, they were dangling from the trees at camp and stuff like that, and you'd run through and they just like land in your face and stuff?
I guess so.
I totally remember them hanging from fir trees and stuff like that. They're always inchworms or army worms or whatever they are called, silkworms. Yeah. They were just,
there you go.
That's just like unlocking another level of bug grossness.
Right?
Imagine getting one of those in your mouth. Imagine getting that in your mouth as you were running.
No, but it must have been karma, because when I went out this week, I had swallowed 3 bugs, and I hadn't swallowed a bug barely all summer. And I don't know what it was. We talked about it on the show. We complained about it. And literally, I went running on Saturday, so yesterday in this case, and I swallowed 3 bugs. They were gross.
Yep. Out of all the things that we complained about, how many of them did we check off? So it was definitely really hot and dealing with water for me. And bugs. So I definitely had some bug issues. You had, what did you have? You had chafing.
I had chafing.
Bugs.
I had the bugs. I had a water problem that I at least wisely headed home early while I still had some. So that's a change for me. Maybe I am getting smarter somehow. Yeah. Right. Maybe it was just time. And I found it funny in the when you mentioned, like, have I entered a new portal, or was that just, is that sweat? And because I was like, that's a dumb thing to say. And then I'm running through the trees, and at one part of Hamwell Park, you go over this little bridge where there's there's always usually a nice breeze and stuff, and you're in the shade. Hamwell Park is completely shady on the trail. Like, there's no sun that gets through at all, which is great. And then, but you go out onto the school field where there's a oval track, and I went from trees to sunlight at it was like 11:30 or 10:30 in the morning, and the sun had finally come. Anyway, it was like I had entered the Sahara Desert. Like, I went from reasonably cool shade to like out into the sun, and I was just like, where am I? What just changed? And I realized that was like all of a sudden it was so much hotter because of the power of the sun.
Yeah,
and it was just
I did Shady Grove on the weekend, and I think I texted you after. I was like, I think it was like 2.5 minutes in, and I was just drenched. Like, I didn't have any place to like wipe my face off that wasn't wet already. And it was just like instant sweat. I haven't even checked my running vest yet. It's probably caked in salt. Like, it's probably crusty.
What time did you start that run? Because I got your text and I was well into mine, but I didn't know what time you actually started.
I was later because I'm on vacation. And so I was just like, I need to get up early so I can beat the heat. And I just like, I laid in bed. I didn't get up early, and then I drank my coffee. And so I think I was pretty close to like 9:30, 10 before I even got on the trail. So I pulled the pin at 12:30, and it was just like cooking. So I stopped, but it was not as early as I wanted it to be.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I didn't get out as early as I wanted it to be too, because, well, I stayed up too late playing video games, and had a friend, Matthew Barber. He was insistent on the fact that it wasn't going to be hot the next morning, and that the humidity wouldn't hit until much later in the day.
Lies.
He was very wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I sent him at the end of my run. I sent him a slightly salty video message of how he was very wrong in his predictions. But
yeah,
man. And I was just like, literally, there was water, like you could see it coming off my hat everywhere because I was just drenched in sweat.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. There was no.
But this week's not going to be any better, my friend. So if you've looked at the weather, it looks tough this week. So
that's all right. We'll persevere. We shall persevere because we are developing cognitive agility. That's what we're trying to develop, cognitive agility. And you're going to learn about that in our conversation today with Adam Tremblay. Adam is a counselor, runs Fundy Coast Counseling. And so it is a good friend of the show, a good friend of ours. And we're excited to have him on and just talk a little bit about, running and how it impacts our mental health and how it can shape us and having a good mindset and all that kind of stuff. And so it should be a lot of fun, and we hope that you'll enjoy it. And so we're going to turn it right over to our conversation with Adam Tremblay. We are thrilled to welcome into the Chasing Trails studios today Adam Tremblay, good friend of the show, mentor, and just an all-around great guy. Thanks so much for being on the show with us, Adam.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. And really look forward to doing this with you.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Again, we've had conversations about having you on the show, I think, for like 2 seasons, and then we finally got it together. But Adam, it's fantastic to talk to you because not only do you have so much experience in the trail running ultra scene, but you also are I don't know what the right word is, like owner operator of Fundy Coast Counseling, and based in Quispamsis. And so as a licensed counseling therapist, like you've got like the inside track into how our brains work, and what we talked to you a lot about a lot of different things. And so it's been fun to get to chat with you. And so we're excited to what you can bring to our conversation today. So to get things started though, we'll start off with an easy one. When Jeff doesn't have his Kleenex with him, so we'll let him get ready before we jump into the hard questions. But just tell us your running story. We love just to hear your story. How'd you get into trail running? How'd you get up into doing ultras, Western States, all those things? Like you've done a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like it's not a spectacular story. It was like 2010 or 2011, might have been 2011. As you guys know, like I'm a long-time whitewater kayaker. I grew up paddling at Reversing Falls, 36 years of paddling and instructing and doing that. And around 2010 or 11, like what was I, like in my earlier mid-30s, I just realized like I needed something else. I was still like highly active paddler, probably not as many days in the water as I was like in my early 20s, and I'd cross train and things like that, but I was really looking for something else that was easy, low barrier to access, that would just cover a lot of fitness bases initially is what I was looking for. And my brother was actually a long time marathoner and was running some ultras at the time, so I kind of just talked to him what he thought about it. He's like, yeah, and he was like, of course you should start running. Why wouldn't you start running? And that really just kind of got me going, and very quickly realized that if I was going to do no other activity to kind of maintain my physical fitness, that was the one I could do with the least amount of barriers and really the least amount of work for the most payout. Right? Like you can maintain a lot of physical fitness with very little load. And that was really appealing to me. And after about a season of running, it was at the time my brother and an uncle and maybe a few others were kind of like, we do this ultra race down in Maine, and you maybe should give it a try. And I'm pretty sure probably at the time they were just goading me on to try it, but it's like I was like, yeah, that sounds appealing. Why not? It's like, and it was the Pineland 50 miler, and it's been around for a long time. So I spent a season training, and back then, even though like training plans and coaching and things like that were a thing, it was still like for most of us, we were still searching the internet for what are the best ways to figure out how to run a really long race. There just wasn't a lot of really accessible literature at the time. So you just ran and you looked to see what other people were doing and did some of that and trial and error and so on and so forth. And I showed up to my first 50 miler in 2012, and by about mile 10, I had blisters that ran the length of my insole and were about 2 inches wide.
Ooh.
I ran up to mile 44, at which point I'd been actually learned a bunch of lessons in that race. Learned a bunch of lessons in every event, actually. I've been trying to run around these damn blisters, and my feet were a mess. And I DNF'd at mile 44, 6 miles from the finish line. It's like, okay, so that was pretty disheartening in the moment, but there was something really appealing about how much it was horrible to do, but needing to go finish it. So I went back the next year, and I actually spent a few seasons at that race, just kind of like getting my feet wet, and a couple of other races nearby, getting my feet wet, and improving on my ability to run distance and time. Yeah, so that's kind of like that's how I got into it, and like just through that community, just got really intrigued with some of these bigger, more kind of like iconic or nostalgic races. That's kind of like look at like Western States. That's been around for a long time. Remember my brother talking about that race and that being a pretty iconic thing, and looking at that and actually things like Badwater, which just went by this past week, and thinking, okay, like those are actually like those are really cool. I really think that that's a good idea. And like getting into Westerns was like that was like a 10-year process for me.
Right.
Like I was doing that when I started that process. They're really it's interesting because when I got drawn, it's funny how many people know that you got drawn for Western States now. But when I started that process, a decade ago, no one was looking at that stuff. Like it wasn't really that like around here. Like we had a running community, but it wasn't like it is right now, right? So it was interesting to start that process, and I thought I'd be like, I'm not gonna have to worry about anyone knowing about this. Not the case anymore.
No.
Anyway, so yeah, and actually getting into the bigger distance runs, like I was actually at Pineland one year, and this guy had a Western shirt on. I'm like, okay, there's someone who's obviously been to the race. Probably, I should talk to them. And he was a guy out of the Trail Animal Running Club in Massachusetts, and he's like, really, like if like you're gonna like try to get into Western, you really should come run a 100-miler. And this is when the 50 milers were still an accessible entry point into Western States. Actually, the year I made a qualifying time was the same year they changed the rules on that.
That sucks.
Yeah, it was starting to get really competitive to get into, so they had changed some of the rules. Anyway. And he's like, you should come run the Trail Animal 100 race in Western Mass. And I do one of the aid stations and did that. And so I went and did that. And like, I could tell that's a whole, like, I could spend an hour just talking about that first 100-miler. It was just ridiculous. Your first 100-mile distance is nuts, but there are all these really cool things. And it happens in every race. There's all these really hallmark moments that come up in these races that kind of make them what they are, whether you finish them or not. And it's like, and there's a lot of takeaways and a lot of really great positives. And I think that is the continual bring me back to the ultra scene. Like I think it was my second 100-miler, which was my first javelina. I think what was really poignant about that and really being immersed in trail culture is javelina, when you go out for your last lap, and when they originally, before they've changed it pre-COVID and earlier days of javelina, it was a washing machine style race where you went out in one direction and came back in the other, which was really nice because you actually get to talk to people and see people in the opposite direction and see how, like, physically see how people are doing. But when you go out for your last lap, they put this little bracelet on you to signify you're out for your last lap. And when I went out for my last lap, there wasn't a single person I passed that didn't say, go get it.
Oh, That's awesome.
Like, it was just like, you just don't get that everywhere in the world, right? Like, everybody is rooting for you, like true old school, like trail culture, right?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
really, like, and that's a race, I think, in part, while it's become a very big race, kind of still has that aspect to it and draws me back. So yeah, that's a little
That's
bit
cool.
about, yeah, the why. I mean, I could go on for hours. There's so many cool things that come up at these events,
I
right?
mean, some of the stories you share are just amazing, and you're right. We could just spend time talking about those, but I think Jeff and I were just chatting a little while ago, just talking about how cool it was to actually like see the Western States buckle, and just understanding like what the history around that, and so it's kind of cool to see just some. I guess it's, without making it too much of like a fanboy thing. Like, it's kind of neat to meet someone in the flesh who's done it. We haven't actually met too many people who've done it, and so knowing you and being able to see that is just like Jeff was saying. It was like, it just feeds that buckle fever, right? Like, you just like, oh man, it's just so cool to actually be able to see it. So that's
Yeah, it's
amazing.
pretty fun once you like. Yeah, I mean, get your own buckle. I actually don't consider that my buckle.
Really.
Consider that everyone who showed up. That was the one race I can truly say I had. Like, I typically don't run crew. I typically don't run pacer. Just not how I was brought up in coming into the sport. Like, not that I haven't had the occasional crew. It's just not what I typically do. But that race, 100% had a crew, had pacers, and couldn't have done it without every single person there. I mean, I actually didn't like. I had a tough race. I was injured, didn't know it. The altitude burnt me up. There were a lot of complications with that race. A lot of things I do different going back. I actually didn't think I was going to finish, and I was really okay with that. I had already decided with about 15 miles into the race. I was up in the Alpine Garden looking around like, well, I got here. Like, so it's all worth it just for this. Like, it was all worth it just for this. But I really, like, I started to fall behind, and at one point I was in an hour. I was an hour deficit in that race. I made up over an hour of time in the last, I think, 40 miles, and most of it in the last maybe 10 miles. I can't remember, 10 or 20 miles. But I didn't think I was going to make it. And one of the guys that was one of the people who were crewing me is Pierre Collins, and he's a guy I've been running with for a lot of years and go to races. And he's out of Montreal, and I didn't know this, but he says, Adam, it's like, we just got to get you to the last 20 miles. He's like, you always run negative splits. It's like, if we can just get you down to the river crossing. And by the time I hit the river crossing, he was right. I was like, oh, okay, I have a chance. And that's where I picked Ann up, and she ran me into the end of that race, which was amazing. She was a real trooper. She was put up with me. They all put up with me, which was great. Yeah, like, just total team effort. Like, did not do that on my own. So
Very cool.
that's a buckle. They all really own a piece of that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It makes it special when you get to share it with others too. Like, it's meaningful that way. But so we wanted to pick your brain, and really kind of give us a little bit of insight too, as well, into some of the things that kind of go on between your ears when you're running, and how that impacts you. And this kind of boils back down to a conversation that we have been having ongoing over this offline. Like, we haven't talked about it very much, except Jeff and I do complain about it on the show quite a bit. When you had kind of challenged us in a good way, just about negative talk, and how we put ourselves down and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, that's kind of where it started, and it's been progressing, and we've been having ongoing discussions about that. And Jeff and I it's been like a real change in our mindset and just how we kind of spend some time talking about ourselves. And so I just want to kind of unpack that conversation a little bit for everyone, because it's been really meaningful for Jeff and I, and I think it could be helpful for our listeners as well. And so maybe like a good starting place would be, can you talk to us about, like, we all know that when we go running, a lot of times we feel better, and we feel better when we're in nature. Like, we're struggling with our mood, or we're struggling with our thoughts, or whatever. And then we go running, we get in the woods, and things seem to clear up. The fog seems to lift, or there's clarity, or we just kind of feel better about the whole situation. Maybe nothing's even changed at all, but we just feel better about it. Like, can you give us like a idiot's guide to why that happens? Like, Jeff and I aren't smart. So just kind of like walk us through what happens in our brains when all that stuff goes on.
Well, I mean, we can kind of tease that into two camps. So there's the nature piece, and then there's the running piece, or the physical activity piece. In the like on the nature side of that, well, there's like a dearth of evidence that speaks to, like, they've done a fair bit of research about people spending time in various types of natural environments, be it just green spaces right down to the forest, or even blue spaces, water trails, and that producing really good benefits cognitively, resetting us, restoring us. The why, I think, is still largely, and I haven't researched this in high depth, but from the reading I've done, the why is, there's still hypothesis. It's a hypothesized why that might be the case. One good one for nature would be, it's like, well, we evolved in nature. It would be sensible to, draw some parallel between evolving in nature and being connected and wanting to return to that, and that being a very natural connection that we would have fundamentally ingrained in us, right? Like, so that's one side, and there are other theories about the restorative properties to our cognitive capacities by being in nature, through like the novelty of what's going on around us, because maybe we don't spend enough time there, and that helping reset like how our brains operate. Yeah. So I'm not super in depth into the science side of why nature works. What we do know, you don't necessarily have to know how, while it can be useful, but that it does.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what a lot of the research shows. They don't really know why. They just know that it does.
Yeah.
So that's the nature side of it. So yeah, so there's that piece. The running piece, that's an interesting one. And I even use it in my practice. So from time to time with people. And, the evidence is out there, and we can all pretty much go get that at our fingertips, that if you do physical activity, it elicits biological responses in our body that produces the happy hormones and chemicals, along with some of the stress ones, which a certain amount of that is fine and okay and useful, and that's good, and then we're using our bodies. I think a big piece of the physical piece, and I note this a lot, particularly from my clients, is like it's generally some level of workload that you're taking on. And then when you've done the workload, there's generally, our brains like that. Our brains like to accomplish things. And there's a level of accomplishment with that, right? And our brains do, even if we're not highly aware of it, our brains know, right? And we generally don't feel worse. Like, I do this with people with addictions. And I've had people fight this on me, like not want to do it, like for like months, try to have this conversation. I'm like, literally, 20 minutes, 3 days a week. If you hate it after a month, you can tell me you can tell me you're an asshole. I'll give you your money back and take it on. Right? And they like, oftentimes after a week, they like write me an email like, "You son of a bitch, it works." Like, it doesn't fix everything, but like all of a sudden people like, I notice my clients get way more stable very quickly. Just by that one, like just a little bit often, right? Like, we are designed to move our bodies. We did not evolve to sit around, right? That's what sets us apart. It's like we're designed to be moving, and we are better off when we are doing it. And rest when you need to rest, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Jeff and I were kind of debriefing our romp and Rockwood experiences a little while ago, and I was just kind of opening up to him, and I was just saying, listen, like, Jeff, there were some times there because I got injured, and I said there are things that I said to myself on the trail that I never would say to another human being, and it was just kind of like this what I've heard described as like this inner critic, like this, I don't know, it's just this voice that comes into your head. That as good as some of those benefits are, like, we all feel those great, happy chemicals after we're done a run, but it's also like these moments where you go through stuff that you don't experience any other time, like when you're pushing yourself and when you're going through a hard time, and all of a sudden like your guard goes down, and like all of a sudden you just start, your head's flooded with all these negative things, right? Like how do you kind of deal with that? And you got any ideas like why that stuff comes out? Like why does that come out when we're running, and how do we deal with that?
Yeah, so like the why is, I mean, there's some, so I mean, just to strip things down, like first off, as humans, we're wired for to experience slightly more negative emotion than positive emotion.
Okay.
That's how we're wired. Okay, so like we already experience that more easily than we do positive, probably because it keeps us alive at some level. Okay, so it's like would be reasonable to assume that if you're pushing your body to a point that might not be safe, that there would be default mechanisms that would want you to stop, right? And that inner voice might get louder because of that, because it's like you are putting me in a place of potential danger. So that would be one reason that would possibly be. The other reason is, you're out doing something for a long period of time. Now, it might be really mindful, or it might not be so mindful, and it might be highly repetitious, maybe even boring, or it's at least, like, in terms of focus, might be very linear, right? So like you might find yourself a little bit bored, and if you're a little bit bored, our minds tend to get a little bit louder, right? Or just the repetition of being in that space over that length of time. And the problem with, like, when you look at distance running, you look at going to Rockwood, it's like it's a repetition over a very long period of time that gets harder. And I mean, everyone knows it's like, right, Jeff, was your second loop easier than first one? But nah, it's like triple the sock.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, it
right?
doesn't just get twice as hard. It gets like 5 times as hard somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so you're like, what the fuck am I doing out here? Why did I choose
Yeah.
this thing? Right. So it's
I
like,
did say that more than once. Yeah.
yeah, it's super common. Right? But I think, yep. So that as that grows on us, though, like the more our brains talk back to us, and it's not positive. You're not eliciting a lot of positive feedback with yourself, which means all the other crap that might be the things that you feel about yourself are inadequate become amplified.
Yeah.
Right. And then they're there for you to they're just there for you to deal with. Yeah. So, like, and I think it's a fairly commonplace thing. I mean, I can't speak to a ton of other people's experience other than you joke about it on trail,
Right.
right? Like you come up onto a running, they're crying, they're like, I'm like, oh, you're right in the right place. Like, you're exactly where you need to be. Like, you're fine. You look great. Like,
Right.
which,
Yeah.
but I think most of us, if we spend any amount of time out there, and if you have a racist, I mean, when everything's going off right, it will be challenging. But when you're not meeting your expectations, or you're not meeting your race plan, it tends to be worse for most of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just seems like all the walls come down, and like when they say like you hear people like, oh, he's fighting demons out there or whatever. That literally feels like what it is. Like you just have things that come up that you have not either dealt with, or that you push aside, or that you bury down, and then just like the physical exhaustion of it just allows those things to come to the surface more easily. And so one of the things you've been kind of pointing us towards is like having a more positive mindset about things, and not just putting yourself, like Jeff and I will put ourselves down just for jokes most of the time, right? Like we have and so we went out for coffee, and your first question was like, well, why are you so negative? Like, why are you so negative about yourself? And I was like, I didn't have a great answer. And so how do we
So
deal?
I asked that.
Yeah, you asked me that. We had that question. And so how can we work on our mindset, and why is that so important, Adam? Like why why is that going to help us out in not just in trail running, but in life? Like what's the deal with our mindset?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like food, right? We are what we eat, kind of thing, right? You are what you think. It's the same damn thing. So I think that's important. Again, it's like we are wired. Again, we're wired for a little bit more negative emotion. So, and we tend to be our own worst critics. I mean, most of us could think of a few damn things that we would like to change about ourselves. Some completely valid and some completely ridiculous, like just not even sensible, right? But we can all think about those things. So I think, and that plays on us. I think a big thing isn't like, it may be my pointing that out or asking that question. And I think, if I remember in a conversation, it said you don't even have to make it positive, but if you can neutralize them, right?
Okay.
Right. If you can just make them not necessarily negative and just find a place of neutrality with them, they won't hold some, because not everything is super positive, right? Shit. Like some things are just like true and they suck, but it's like, but then you get into like, well, is there some self-acceptance of some of this stuff, and what's and am I being reasonable about it, and are there ways to look at it that, well, they might not be positive, but at the very least maybe they're slightly more neutral. And if they're slightly more neutral, then at least they're not negative thoughts that become the things that are barriers to us, right? Because their negative thoughts literally become barriers. They're what make us sick, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. So can you give us an example of taking a negative thought and making it neutral? It doesn't put you on the spot, but but putting you on the spot. Could you think of one?
I suck at running.
Okay.
I suck at running. I'm a horribly not fast runner. I'm like, well, I'm not as fast as a lot of people, but I'm a pretty solid mid-packer.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So it's just like positing it in a different light. So instead of saying, okay, let's say that, let me try. I'm a slow runner, but I'm faster than people who are on the couch. Like it's that kind of changing your shit.
I think that's way better. It's like,
okay.
Right.
Right. And so when those things come up, it's trying to like address them and say, hey, let's kind of shift this to a more neutral mindset. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's cognitive. You're literally doing a cognitive restructuring exercise with yourself, right? You restructure it into something. I often, like when I'm doing like cognitive behavioral therapy with people like who are depressed or highly anxious tend to ruminate too much. They often ruminate about the same things or same negative things over and over and over again, and they often believe that they're true. And it's like, well, are they really? It's like, let's challenge that a little bit. Is there another way to think about that? Is there a more realistic, neutral, or evidence-based thought that would be more accurate than the negative thought that you have? And if you can structure a thought that be one of those, more realistic, maybe evidence-based, like it might not be super positive, but it might be better than a negative thought you have about yourself.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I'm just trying to kind of process some things here. Like when you're going through, like, let's say like a longer distance, like you'll go through like these whole peaks and valleys. It's like a whole race is like a lifetime of emotions. Like you have just like ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs. Like, is there a reason why that happens? Like, is that just like, why do we kind of go through all of that emotional? That seems like a lot of emotional energy while you're actually exerting a lot of physical energy too.
I mean, in part, that's a good question. Why? I don't know why precisely. I mean, again, back to the duress you're experiencing through your body. It's like, and then that mechanism of, should I actually be doing this?
Right.
And like, I think part of the problem is it brings into question, why the hell are we doing anything? Why am I wasting my time on this thing? Right. Sorry, could you ask the question again?
No, I'm just thinking like we go through a whole slew of emotions. Like, why do we go through all those emotions? It just seems like just as much as our physical, it's kind of like a somatic experience, right? Like you're going through this whole wave of physical stuff as well as mental stuff at the same time.
I think a big part of it is that it's like, how much time do you spend setting aside for yourself on any given day to examine the inner workings of you?
Right.
And then you go out and do it for like 10, 15, 25 hours. It's like, well, you have nothing else to do. Of course you are. And then when you do that, it's like you're going to go to places and it's mixed with the experience that you're currently having, mixed with the expectations of what might be going right or wrong or not. And it all plays out, right? And yeah, and I don't think it necessarily, I think a big piece of this has got to do with the time we are actually spending with ourselves in a reflective mode.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
trail ultra, I mean, just trail running, exercise is like, if you're exercising and being mindful, that's great. But we often end up not so mindful about the exercise and being in a contemplative spot, right? Which is absolutely nothing wrong with that, but it does. It puts us into a mode of contemplation, right?
Yeah. No, I've never thought of it that way, but you're right. Like, how often are we spending uninterrupted hours of time with just our thoughts and just going, a lot of times, like, you're not listening to music or whatever, but even then, when you got music and distractions, it still comes up. So yeah, it is like this level of contemplation that you have. That's good.
Yeah. We actually use the music as a dissociative strategy often.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
That makes sense.
it helps us to dissociate a little bit from the crap that's going on with our bodies sometimes and the experience around us. We don't want to feel it as much, and we'll put music on to distract our brains.
Yeah. I even find like that, especially with audiobooks. I find it even more so with audiobooks because you can kind of like trick your brain into thinking about the book instead of actually like what's going on with your body as you're going through it. So you always hear people talking about books for long runs and music for short runs. And so
Oh, interesting.
I can get into that. But you touched on something that I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about, and that's the why around running, especially some of these longer distances. Because we've been having this ongoing conversation, like what's a good why behind running? Because I think Jeff and I, when we started, it would have been around like accomplishment. It would have been, and that's not a bad thing. That's just kind of
That's
where we
good.
started. And it was about like getting to the next level. Like, okay, we got to 5K, 10K, moving up to half marathon, all like progressing through those distances. But like, what's a good reason to run? Like, why should we kind of put ourselves into these places where our bodies are starting to hurt, that we're experiencing that kind of suffering? Like, why should we do that? What's a good why?
That's so it's a great question. I think it's like case by case. It's case by case. We all have to figure out our own why, right? That's why, like, what the hell you're here for? It's like, what's most meaningful to you, right? Like, you got to move through the world. It's like, and if you have the luxury of, beyond like we get to just take care of our basic needs, and you have a little bit of time affluence and the ability to do so to go chase things like these trail runs, is like, you start to develop your own concept of what's meaningful. I like why. I mean, running alone. Well, maybe it's because it's got your kids doing it,
Yeah.
right? Like I said to you guys after East Coast, Beast Coast, it's like, what was that like? It's like, what's more friggin' meaningful than that?
Yeah.
Right? The most important jobs you'll ever have, being parents. Like, how cool is that? And then you got your kids involved. And then they're going to see you guys do that, and they're going to see you struggle, and they're going to see you succeed, and they're going to see you fail, and then you're going to see you not give up and keep doing it. And it's like, and that is the role model. Like, what's fucking better than that? If there wasn't a good why, right? Like,
Yeah.
like you know, I, I think for myself personally, I like hard things. I want to like, I think, doing the work I do, I'm fortunate enough. I mean, we all have life. We all experience things that are hard and struggle or suffer, whatever you want to call it. But I think continually doing hard things is good for you. They don't have to necessarily be 100-mile hard. Like, everyone can decide what their benchmark is for that, but putting yourself in a place of discomfort, I think, is very important. And it helps to hone you, and it can teach you to work, and it can teach you to deal with yourself in hardship, and it won't necessarily, when other real hardships, or the kind that life will give you that you don't want on a idle Tuesday afternoon, right? It might be just a little bit more manageable, right?
Yeah.
Or you might be able to, your resilience might be a little bit more fortified. And those are all worthwhile reasons. I do it because, like, I feel free. I feel, at least part of the reason, I'm pretty fortunate. I work with people who, struggles. Like, I should go out and do some of that because it's good and it teaches you things, right? It's like, that's probably changed a little bit over time. I feel that's less necessary now. And I'm not, in terms of like why I do it personally and all the demons. I think I said it to you at Rockwood, either before or after you were done running, Brandon. It's like, none of it friggin' matters. Like, we're just here, right? None of it matters at the end of the day. The point is to go out and do it, try, see what happens, experience it. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, that's fine. It's like, as long as you went out and put maximal effort out in an appropriate manner and in an honest and true way to yourself, it's like that's enough reason there, right? It's like, and I've been doing it long enough now that I'm like, my why is, it's just fun now. Like, I'm getting slower. I've got a lot of miles. Things hurt more, a lot more, and and the inner voice doesn't have much power anymore. I actually decided that I have Lena one year. I'm like, okay, I'm done with that. It's over. I don't need it anymore. It's not serving anymore. So I'm just gonna go out and run, and it very seldom does that pop up for me anymore, because it doesn't, like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm just here, having fun, doing my thing. It's hard. It's gonna suck. I'll finish or won't finish, and I'll find out at the end.
Yeah.
I think it's really important for everyone to cultivate that for themselves, and it will change. It's not static, because we're not static.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense. Is there a bad why? Like, is there a bad reason to do something? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is there a bad reason to go into these races, or is everyone's why fine?
My attitude is if it won't kill you or seriously maim you, then it's probably not a bad idea. Like, people often ask me, like, do you get, I mean, and I think, like, I've learned a lot of my management like, has probably come from paddling. Like, my ability to manage problems and errors, or not letting them become bigger errors, probably have come, and taking risk. Like, I'm not highly risk prone. Like, so that's one thing it really can teach us to do, because, I mean, running is relatively safe, but I mean, if you look at the physical risk you could potentially be putting your body in when you do an endurance event, it's like, it's not nothing, that's for sure. Kidney injuries are a common thing. It's like, that's not exactly a great thing to have, right? We're putting our bodies under a lot of stress, but my attitude's always was like, well, I don't think it's going to kill me, so it's probably not a bad idea. It's like, yeah, you should probably go try that. It's like, but what if I fail? Well, that just means you learned a whole bunch of stuff. That's it. It's relevant information about what you should do next. That's all that is.
Right.
Seriously, I have to teach my clients that people are paralyzed by failure.
Yeah.
People are paralyzed by it. It's like, no, it's like it's a barrier. It's like, no, absolutely. You'll know more than you did when you started, and then you'll rectify that on the other side.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah,
that used to be such a huge deal for me, like a fear of failure. Like, that's one thing, like, running has taught me, is just like, hey, listen, there are gonna be times when you don't hit your goal. Like, life goes on, and we've been able to get better because of it. So that's a really cool thing. I wanted to ask you too, just about just the role of mentorship in the trail running community, because I think one of the things Jeff and I have experienced, just from our relationship with you and and with Anne is just to be able to have someone to pour into us about running. I assume that's a value for you, because that seems to be something you do naturally. You tend to gravitate towards runners and encourage them and help them and educate them and that sort of thing. And maybe I don't think I'm wrong in assuming that, but why is that important? Like, why for you, I guess, is that important? And what do you get out of it? How do you like, what does that do for you?
It's complicated. That's a good question.
I didn't try to stump you. I'm not trying to stump you.
Stump me. It's like, I think first off, as a values set, and this probably comes from a lot. Like at one point, I was like the second most active whitewater kayaking instructor in for the recreational side in the country, and doing a lot of instructing. I was teaching a lot of courses, and a lot of times it's like you really going beyond whatever a course is. You just have no choice. But I think I've developed, and even more so now that I'm not doing that as much, that it's like you should pay things forward. Things shouldn't be vaulted. Like, they're not secrets anyways. So like, and if you have something that someone else could use and that would benefit, and there's no reason for you to be gatekeeping, you should pay that forward. And it's like, and if you really want to take care of yourself, like, don't be selfish, be selfless. Like you don't have to do that like a bleeding heart, right? But you know, if you have a place in your life where you can do that for a person or people or communities, like, do some of that. That's useful. It will pay. It's good because, well, I'm not doing it because, like, well, I got 2 guys that I would call friends now. It's like, well, that's useful, right? So I guess I got something out of it.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe, I guess.
I would say definitely. I think that's, that's one reason to do that. Or maybe because you just like, it's in my value set. I guess that's why I do it. Like, I still find myself doing that today. I was on the water with some guys, they're longtime paddlers, but they're struggling with a few things. And, I've been doing it so long, I can instruct it in second nature. It's like, well, like, and to tell them, like, here's what you need to address these things. And it's like, it's not hard. It's like, you want people to be better than you are. Like, that makes sense. It's like,
yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, if there's legacy worth keeping, it's like how you treated the people around you.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, for sure. For sure. And that was like one of the things I saw in action with the beginner group, the intro group, is you saw like these guides who had been running for various number of years, various different skill levels, but were so willing to impart any like tips or tricks or gear insight that they had gathered over their time, and were willing to just kind of invest that in people who were totally brand new to the sport. And like Jeff and I both were saying to each other that, even speaking to our daughters after the East Coast Beast Coast, like there were people who were investing in them, just congratulating them, cheering them on the course, and even just telling like Catherine how to stretch out her calf in a different way, so when it was giving her struggles, and so there's just such a beautiful thing about that I think gets either, I don't know if it gets highlighted in the trail running community, or there's just more of it in the trail running community than in other places, because I mean, you don't see a lot of that in some of the other sports in that kind of organic kind of way.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I would agree with that. Even like, I mean, paddling is an individual sport, and it's been a lot like that. I mean, the numbers aren't the same, but like when you go to a trail event, I mean, the number of people doing these things now, and the way people treat each other, I would concur that that's probably more true on average in that population. people just want to see other people do well and succeed, right? Like we just do. It's like in trail, people are always out there on the trail. Like if someone's struggling, it's like, is there something I can do? Is there something you need? I remember at Sedona this year, me and Ann pulled into a water station, and we were sitting there, and this poor individual, she was sitting there, and she was looking pretty dejected and upset. And I looked over at her and didn't know her name, didn't really care, and just said, "What's going on?" Because I could tell she was struggling, and I think it was her stomach and some other things. And I'm like, okay, and like, and I checked in on a few other things, and I'm like, and she was getting ready to call. I'm like, you probably shouldn't call it. And she's like, well, why? Like, I feel like because it will probably pass. It's like, she's like, well, how do you know? It's like, well, because I've done it enough times to know. And it's like, I also know that your stomach is the number one reason why people quit. Like GI distress is the number one reason why people drop out of races. It's like, are you here to win? It's like, well, no, it's here to finish. I'm like, okay, well then if you just like suffer that suck out for a little bit longer and just keep nursing yourself, it'll probably turn around in a few hours. Sure enough, man, she came by in a few hours and she was lit right up and having a grand time. And she's like, yeah, things turned like 180 degrees. And people just need that, right? People like, I remember one year at Javelina, some guy came up behind me and I could tell that he was staggering and shuffling and having a hard time. And I kind of spoke back and I'm like, what's going on back there? And it was the middle of the night. And the guy's, well, I'm delirious. I'm like, oh, all right, are you hallucinating? No, but like he's getting like, all right, well, what's your water like? What's your fuel intake like? And, going through the checklist and stuff. I'm like, all right, well, how about, you got any caffeine on board? He's like, none. I'm like, well, like, would you like some? It's like, okay, and that, and just kind of hung with that person to the next aid station. And by the time they got to the next aid station, they didn't want to leave me for the rest of the run. And I was injured. I was injured. So I was just kind of like, I'm just kind of going to walk this out. I got like 40 miles to fucking walk, but I'm just going to walk. And I think we were on our last lap, but he wanted to run in with me. He wouldn't. He's like, no, you help me. I have to stay with you. I'm like, no. It's like, you should go finish your race. It's like, that's what we do for one another. Go do your thing, man. Yeah. But, like, just pay it forward.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. As we kind of wrap things up here, Adam, what advice would you give to someone, who is in some ways kind of like, I may be struggling with their mental health a little bit, and they want to try and address it with, maybe doing some running and stuff like that. Like how would you kind of walk them through that? And what would you kind of say to someone who's maybe exploring that as a possible way to kind of help with their mental health?
If we're talking about people, like if they were not, let's say they were a non-runner and they thought that might be a good idea. I really like, particularly if they've suggested it to themselves, brilliant. It's like, because it was your idea, you're more likely to actualize ideas you have for yourself, right? Okay. So, but the first thing I would say is like, well, find a pair of shoes that you can wear. It's like, and depending on what your budget is, you might only need to go to Walmart, and that's sufficient. You can run on a pair of Walmart sneakers. You do not need to spend $300 on a damn pair of shoes to start running. Like, first off, let's eliminate as many barriers to entry as we possibly can. And then it's like, if they're doing it to address their mental health, I always lead, at least when I am doing this, a little bit often. And if they're new to it, no matter what, if you're new to it, you're going to see gains if you're consistent. So I often say to people, can you do like 20 minutes, 3 to 4 days a week? 3 is minimum, 4 would be good. It's like if you could do 2 back to back and then space the other ones out, that would be fine. And could you stick to that for a month? Right? Like, stick to it for at least a month before you make any decisions about what you do with it next. Because people will often drop off very quickly. And the other thing I do is contract with yourself for a certain amount of consistency, which means if you miss a day, what you're allowed to do. So this is about building cognitive flexibility with ourselves. Like, we often get very rigid about, I need to, like, follow a damn training plan to a T. Like, people like chasing and making up miles and all that stuff. It's like, you're just never going to do it. Like, you're just not. So, contract for some cognitive flexibility around, like, if I miss a day, fine, but I must start the next day. I can't miss more than a day beyond a scheduled run, right? And I have to start. Do that for a month. It's like within a month, you'll know if you should be doing it or not. It's like if you have no other physical ailments or reasons not to be doing it, and just a little bit often, and let it grow incrementally and be accountable. I often tell people maybe journal, like physically journal that particularly if they're doing it for their wellness. It's like put the normal data down, date, time, distance, but maybe rate your mood before and rate your mood after, right? Like that's a good one. People often start to notice a difference. Either the mood just becomes a little bit more consistently positive on average. Maybe they start looking forward to the run. Maybe they never look forward to the run, but the offside, they're like always feel, sense of accomplishment and, a little bit more energetic in the world. It's like, okay, cool. Well, is that worth it? Most people also think that the gains, like we just want things done. We just want them done. We want the answer and we want all of it all for once, right? I want it. Yeah. It's like, it doesn't work like that. It's like, if you could make a 1% change every week for the next 52 weeks, would you take that? Right. It's like you would take it because it would, like, your life at the end of that year would look significantly different with just 1 or 2% every week. Right. It's about building sustainability models, so it's incremental and sustainable over time is what you're thinking about. And if you can do that, it's like you can take care of a lot of things, right?
Yeah, that's good advice. That's really good advice. Jeff, you got anything to throw in there before we wrap up?
No, not really. It's very deep.
Jack, you want to stay on and do a session? I got the Kleenex ready. I got my virtual Kleenex here.
I don't think I'm there yet.
Well, it's got to be your own idea, I guess. So that's the way it works. It's got to come from you. So.
That's right. Adam has challenged me in many ways while we run together and taught me a lot in the last, I don't know what, I've known you for not very long. So I appreciate it, but I don't think I have anything to add. You guys had a great conversation, so I don't know. It was awesome. I'll listen to it again because it was I enjoyed it while just sitting here.
Yeah. Oh, no, cool. Adam, it's always great to chat, and we appreciate you so much, man. And thanks for being our friend, and thanks for teaching us so much. And we look forward to running with you again. But before you go, can you just give a little plug for yourself? Like, how can people get in contact with you or Ann and Fundy Coast Counseling if they want to reach out and have a conversation?
I mean, if they just want to talk to me about running or racing or that stuff, I mean, you can find me on Facebook, or you guys are, I'm happy to have them pass along my name, or you can find us through our business, Fundy Coast Counseling. You can simply Google us. We're really easy to find, and just shoot us an email, and it's just that simple. Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. All right, Adam. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us tonight.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. It's been great.
Well, Jeff, there's always so much to learn from Adam. I love having conversations with him. I just love how like straightforward he is too, and direct. And I always just appreciate when he shares such great advice in such a direct way, because so often it's like, well, you could do this or you could do that. He's like, no, you should do this. This is what you should do. And sometimes you need that like direct answer to kind of help you get through things, eh?
I mean, I do. Because I take a lot of liberty in anything anyone says. I like chatting with him. I do feel like that. He wishes that I would open up a little more. He wants to pry in there, but he's being respectful of my my resistance. So he'll get to me someday. Someday someday I'm going to ask him to pace a big long run for me when I do my first 100-miler. I'm going to get him to be my pacer, and then he'll have open window into my soul when I finally break down in the middle of a trail.
That's right.
But he'd be the guy you'd want there. So
yeah, for sure. You'd be the one.
We might see that at Looney Loops. Who knows? Depends on how far I go. So
yeah, it was funny. He invited me out for coffee one time, and it was like, okay, well, we'll just meet at a coffee shop or whatever. He's like, well, how about I can get some coffee and we can just come to my office because it's a lot quieter in my office. And then I was like, wait a minute, this sounds a lot like therapy. So, it wasn't.
That was after our Rob and Rockwood debrief. We were super hard on yourself, right?
It was like therapy light. Like it wasn't really therapy, but it was like therapy light. Like it could have gotten into that, but I was but he's just so easy to talk to. It was a great experience. So anyway, I
agree. Yeah.
I can't say
feel like
good things.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny. We just finished. We obviously just interviewed Adam. We also just did an interview for another podcast, and we talked a lot about the community. And I can't help but think when Adam mentioned about like the why, and like why he gives back, and he's like, well, I got something out of it too. Like I have 2 new friends, and it's funny because I got to thinking about that. I was like, gee, you're right. Like I would consider Adam to be a friend now. But I've had a history, like most of my life, and people would be like, "Yeah, Jeff just doesn't like people," and they're not wrong. Like I do struggle in that area, but I guess part of the reason I enjoy the trail running community so much is I have met some good friends who I like, and I'm like, "Oh, these guys are cool," So, and Adam being one of them. So I appreciate that he at least feels the same way, and we're not just continually, bothering him with our questions, right?
I'm like trying to avoid the like what about Bob scenario where you just kind of like move in with the therapist, or Bill Murray just moves in with Richard Dreyfuss, and I'm just like, okay, well, let's just try and keep this somewhat normal.
All I could think about when you were explaining that question, I was gonna break in and be like, what Brandon's trying to ask you is, why do you put up with these 2 shitheads? But I didn't. He did a good job answering the question. So anyway,
he did. He's good at that. But I also just kind of appreciate too his just openness with sharing his experiences and his willingness to talk. And Anne's the same way, his partner, she also works at the Funny Coast Counseling. Like they're just, when we went for a run with them out at their house, like it was just so easy to connect with them and chat. And so they've got a real gift of just being open and willing to share whatever they have. It's quite open handed. So it's really neat and really special. So we're lucky to have those people around us.
Yep. Just, they ask good questions when you're chatting with them too. So it makes you think, right?
Sometimes they're too good, right? Sometimes you're just like a little too good. Like we've been, it's been like, they asked us that, like, why are you so hard on yourselves? That was like 4 months ago, 5 months ago. Right. And we're still working through it all and chatting about it. And it's just, it's a good question, but anyway, we'll keep working on it, buddy. That's all we can do, right?
That's right. Yeah, we're gonna keep working on
our
why.
We can be the best me we can be.
Sure,
but we should do like some sort of like pay-per-view where we have you and Adam sit down, and there's like a list of like inquiring questions where he asks you some probing things, and we'll just see what comes out. I would pay good money to see that.
No one wants to watch that.
What are you talking about? Everyone would see that. They come from miles around. Your own family alone would be enough to pay for the event.
It's true. People wonder about me. You'd have to straitjacket me into a chair. I'm not. Listen, it sounds like I'm against counseling. I'm not against counseling. I just think it's for everyone else except for me. Right. Adam's really gonna come after me after this. But,
you got a target on your back now.
Yeah,
but
you're doing this to me. You're really getting me in trouble. You're putting me in a place here, Brandon.
Listen, I just set them up and you hit them. Like that's just how it goes. Like, you're doing this all yourself. Like I'm just setting the table. You've been serving them up. So
I'll just go running with Adam. I feel like that's a counseling session in and of itself. So
there you go. That is probably true.
It's good to chat. He's just it's great. So
I do know that's probably an opportunity. So we'll get that set up, and you can run it through your insurance, and we'll be perfectly good.
Man, that's great. I wonder. Jeez, he should start like including selling shoes through his practice as part of counseling, and then we could all write off our shoes.
Race fees. Like race fees would be another one too, right? Like
tax-deductible race fees. I like it.
Yep, that's the way it goes. Well, everyone, we hope that you enjoyed our conversation with Adam, and we hope that it's made you think a little bit more about yourselves, and we'll just keep working on Jeff. And maybe one day we'll tumble down. But in the meantime, everyone, keep on chasing the trails.
Thanks for that, Brandon.
1